it is time to compare two of my favorite mid to low tier tank destroyers, the ISU-122 and the SU-100Y. Now, the ISU is a rank 4, tier 4 vehicle, does have a 122mm main gun, does seem to be a bit more maneuverable, has a much more useful reverse speed, 15 km per hour, 38 km per hour is the top speed. Now, the armor does kind of state that it is well armored, but it's actually very easy to destroy the vehicle. You just shoot the lower plate or you shoot the left side of the vehicle right next to the main gun, and most of the shells easily go in. It has very good ammunition, has APHE and APHEBC, which are one of my two favorite mid to low tier ammo types in the game. Now, the box tank has a larger gun, 130mm. This is actually a naval gun, a very big gun. Does seem to be a little bit slower. Its reverse speed is horrendous, 4 km per hour. It is actually a lot heavier than the ISU. Does penetrate a little bit less, 22mm, and the overall protection is, well, it's decent, but this is such a big vehicle, you literally cannot miss it. And the poor reverse speed means that if you don't have cover or teammates, you might be in trouble. And of course, the sheer size of this monster is, I mean, if you were to put the ISU right next to this thing, it would look like a toy next to the box tank. But of course, both vehicles are very interesting, and at the moment they are kind of the best tank destroyers in the category, in the tier, even though the ISU is technically a tier higher. But these two vehicles will meet each other on the battlefield, and honestly, they seem to be performing very similarly when it comes to the overall gun performance. Now, how do they perform? Well, let's start with the ISU. Now, this is, as I mentioned before, this is a faster vehicle. It's also based on the IS hull. Basically, the most of the hull is the IS, but the frontal section is basically customized to house a 122mm long gun, and of course, it is a tank destroyer. But most of it does reassemble a IS. But of course, the armor on this tank is not something that I usually rely. You should rely on the reverse gear to reverse into safety when you fire. The reload is not that bad. Does feel like it's reloading a little bit faster than the SU, but the SU kind of states that it reloads just a second faster, but honestly, I haven't really noticed that in use. I would actually say that the reload speed is about the same, but this does feel like it's reloading just a tiny bit faster. Although there is one thing that I did not mention, I forgot to mention. The SU-100Y is definitely a bit more broken. Well, not in that term broken, but you know, it is kind of silly that you have that thing at tier 3, but this is a tier 4 vehicle. Honestly, I kind of expected this to be a tier 3 platoon, but we have the T-3045, which would be very silly to be a tier 3 vehicle, so it's a tier 4 vehicle, tier 4 platoon. But honestly, so far I've been enjoying this new platoon. I'm wondering when they will add the ISU-152. That thing would be very awesome to have, and will probably be one of my favorite vehicles, since that tank has a very long 152mm main gun, and it also can have a 152mm shorter gun, and you can imagine how much the high explosive power on that would be. Now, the ISU has a machine gun, the SU doesn't, and in some cases that could be a, you know, a decided factor. Although honestly, this machine gun isn't all that impressive. It only holds like 50 bullets, and I guess it might be useful against some light armored vehicles and some light armored targets, but honestly I haven't really been using the machine gun on this vehicle that much. But yeah, it does have a machine gun, and that's definitely I guess an added bonus over the box tank. But again, the machine gun isn't really, at least on this vehicle, I haven't really been using it much. It's nice to have, but it doesn't feel like it is that important to have, since it only holds like 50 bullets and you already have a very powerful main gun. So now the tanks do play in a very similar way. Both tanks are snipers, although the ISU does seem to be a bit more mobile. I mean, it has a useful reverse gear that does go in reverse about 17 to 20 km per hour at max, which definitely much better than the 4 km per hour that we see on the box tank. If there's one thing that I don't like about the box tank, it's the reverse speed. I feel like the reverse speed is crippling the vehicle, and if the reverse speed on the SU was just like 3 km per hour faster, it would be a lot more tolerable, but you know, not going to complain much. After all, it is a rank 3 vehicle. And I have 6 kills so far. Not doing too bad, trying to kill as many tanks as possible. I mean, you can't really be running around with this vehicle and use it like a medium tank, or, you know, you can't really use it like a normal tank. It's a tank destroyer, so it has to be used as a tank destroyer. And that means you have to rely on range and cover. And of course the reload is a bit longer, it's a big gun, so the reload might take a while. But this can be a very sneaky vehicle. There we go. Let's say AMX blown to bits. And there is one more vehicle as well. I'm just waiting the reload before I peek around the corner. If you can find a position where only the right side of the vehicle is exposed, then it could be a very, very lethal tank, since the gun mantlet can actually absorb a couple hits. But you really need to be careful, because the left side of the vehicle is the most vulnerable part of the ISU. And that Hellcat somehow did not get its ammo detonated, even though I did hit the ammo rack there. And the rare occasion where I actually do use the machine gun. The machine gun can be, as I remember, it can be useful. It is not completely useless. And as you can see, yeah, it was more than capable of destroying a Hellcat. After all, the Hellcat doesn't have any armor. So it worked fine. Now I got hit. I got hit basically in the upper part, where the weak spot is. So I have to wait for the... Actually, look, oh look, a bomb. Let's wait for the bomb to explode. That's a big explosion. Okay. Oh, look! Another bomb just spawned right next to my tank. It's like I'm the only opponent for the enemy team, and I'm the only one who gets bombed. Not like the base needs to be captured or anything. Well, I'm at 9 kills. Not bad. Decent match. Not my best match, obviously, but still fairly decent. Decent to such an extent that I really cannot complain. I mean, this vehicle is very fun if you, of course, know how to take advantage of it. Not a too difficult vehicle to drive, but you know, driving around tank destroyers could potentially be a bit more difficult than driving around normal tanks. I mean, you don't have a turret and you have to basically know where to position the vehicle, and of course the armor. I love how, I really would love if we had like a more in-depth like tank armor view, so we can actually inspect the armor of the vehicle. Would be much, I guess, more accurate, since it does show that you have armor, but at the same time it's not a difficult vehicle to penetrate. Even though it is armored, it's not, you know, super armored or anything. It's decently armored, but you will be penetrated by most of the vehicles within the rank, even some lower rank vehicles. And I mean, most lower rank vehicles will be able to go through your frontal armor with ease. So with the ISU, range stealth is the way to, and there's a lot of positions where you can position yourself to basically snipe. And that was a good match, pretty good match. Now let's go to the box tank. Now the box tank does have a very similar play style to the ISU. The main takeaway is that you have no reverse. Basically, the reverse on this thing is horrendous, and it's much larger. I mean, it's called the box tank for a reason, and it's well, is heavier and a big target. So stealth with this vehicle is kind of difficult to achieve. Not impossible to achieve, but you know, difficult because of the sheer magnitude of the size of this thing. It's, if you were to see this thing in real life, you'd be shocked how huge this thing is. It's a monster. So yeah, but it has a very nasty 130mm naval cannon. This cannon is based on a cannon that's being used on a naval ship, so yeah, you know that when this thing hits, it's no joke. Now when it comes to damage, this has a specialized SAPC BC ammo, which I believe is naval ship ammo. I could be wrong, but I believe that's naval ship ammo. Meanwhile, the ISU has APHE and APHE BC. Now, which one of these ammunition types will do most damage? Well, I mean, I would say both are getting the job done, but definitely the higher caliber helps a lot. Usually the damage is done by the shell caliber, or the shell type. This is a APC rounds, a modified APC round, while the APHE is still APHE, so when it penetrates it explodes. But this shell does seem to do some secondary explosive damage as well, so I guess in the end the amount of damage that you will do will be about the same, with the difference being that this is a larger caliber, of course, and it will probably do more damage when it penetrates. But the explosive power of the 122 is also not to be underestimated, and the ammo type is really good, so you don't have to worry about the damage. Both will yeet a tank in one hit. After all, we're talking about big guns, and big guns tend to do a lot of damage. Although I have to admit, using this vehicle is for some reason so satisfying, because it is such a menacing tank to use. It's huge, it's a box, although being a box is also a disadvantage because it's a big target, but I guess this vehicle does have a certain charm to it. And being lower rank means that you'll be fighting lower ranked vehicles, and honestly this gun in low tier is just overkill. This gun in this tier is overkill. You will be able to penetrate like all vehicles. I mean, even a Tiger, you penetrate Tigers with this, so it's not a bad tank at all. The reverse speed is definitely something that I don't like about this vehicle, but everything else seems to be doing just fine, and I cannot complain about the performance of this vehicle. Now the main question is, well, which one of these vehicles is technically better, although honestly calling one of these vehicles the better vehicle is, I guess, a subjective matter, because I honestly like both. I did well with both, I had insane battles with both, I'm doing well with both. I would say both vehicles are definitely unique in their own way, but there are some differences, of course. The extra reverse on the ISU is definitely a big advantage, while the lower rank and higher caliber gun is definitely a advantage on the box tank. Of course, the ISU does have advantage in having a machine gun, which can be useful, and has much better maneuverability, which honestly, in a lot of cases, maneuverability will definitely save your vehicle. So if we look at these vehicles in that way, we are actually figuring out that both vehicles have their ups and downs, and all that's fine. In the end, more tanks, more possibilities, more fun. And I'm all in for that. I did shoot by... I actually thought that the comment would go out, but they didn't. And this was also a decent game, not as many kills as with the first game, but hey, it's still a pretty good match, so I'll take it. Was a pretty decent match. I would say that driving this vehicle might be a bit more difficult because of the size of the tank and of course the lack of the reverse gear. Definitely much more difficult to drive this thing, since you have to actually maneuver around, you can't just reverse back into safety. The ISU does have a fast reverse gear, so going back in reverse is a big option, and honestly a better option than to have to like maneuver around and rotate as I usually do with this vehicle. I have developed a very funny method of driving this thing to safety when it's reloading, and it's been working so far really well. But yeah, the reverse definitely the better option if your tank has reverse, but this thing doesn't have reverse, so have to do some, have to develop some other means to go back to safety while reloading. And well, with that being said, it was a very fun little comparison. Tell me in the comments down below which one of these tanks you prefer. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe. And as always, I'll see you next time.